I'm Madison. Standing here at John's 40th birthday party, I feel a sense of calm and confidence that I never thought possible. The hall is filled with laughter and the clinking of glasses, but my focus is on John. He stands near the bar, a glass of whiskey in his hand, looking older and more tired than his age. When his eyes land on me, he freezes, and for a moment, he doesn't recognize me. I'm dressed in a deep emerald silk gown, my hair swept into loose waves that catch the light. A delicate pendant rests at my collarbone. I look radiant, a far cry from the woman he once dismissed as boring. Daniel stands beside me, his suit crisp, his presence solid and reassuring. He offers me his arm, and I take it, feeling a sense of security and love. As I walk towards John, I can feel the eyes of the people around us. I greet him with a warm but distant voice. Happy birthday, John. He blinks, trying to gather himself. Sophie, you look. He stammers, unable to finish. I simply say, thank you, sparing him the effort. My smile is polite, unshakable. I look around at the people in the hall, the men in tailored suits bragging about investments, the women in polished heels exchanging smiles sharp as glass. I realize how far I've come from the woman I used to be. I was once trapped in a marriage that stifled my growth, but now I'm a woman with a purpose, a woman who has reclaimed her life. I lean in slightly and say, I wanted to thank you, John, for setting me free, for making room in my life for something better. Confusion flickers across his face, replaced quickly by a grim attempt at indifference. I turn towards Daniel, who meets my gaze with quiet pride. Yes, much better, I say, my hand brushing lightly over my stomach. Daniel and I are expecting. It's early, but I've never been happier. The color drains from John's face, and his glass tips slightly in his hand. The hum of conversation around us falters as those nearby catch my words. I don't gloat, don't smirk. I simply stand there, radiant, a woman who has been discarded but has bloomed in the soil where she was left. As I turn away, linking my arm through Daniel's, I think back to the journey that brought me here. It all started 12 years ago when I married John. We lived in a comfortable condo outside Philadelphia, a life that seemed predictable but safe. John had a steady corporate job, and we had a routine of dinners together, weekend errands, and holiday visits with his colleagues. It wasn't the fairy tale I once dreamed of, but it was steady, and I thought it would carry me forward for decades. But then, one Tuesday evening, everything changed. John came home early, loosened his tie, and sat across from me with the air of a man about to deliver a carefully rehearsed speech. Madison, this isn't working anymore. We need to file for divorce, he said, his words landing like a thunderbolt. I blinked, certain I had misheard. I'm sorry. What? I asked. He repeated the word divorce steadily, professionally. We've grown apart. I feel like I'm suffocating. You're on autopilot all the time. Just cooking, cleaning, chatting with the neighbors. You're not growing, not exciting. I need more. I felt my throat tighten. John, do you even hear yourself? You're the one who asked me to quit my job. You said you wanted a calm, perfect home to come back to. You made it sound like a gift. He shook his head. I didn't force you, Madison. We agreed. It was the right decision at the time. I snapped, my voice sharper than I intended. We didn't agree. We fought about it. You wore me down. You didn't like my friends, so I cut them off. You didn't want me working long hours, so I left a job I loved. You told me we'd be fine, because you made enough money. And now you sit here and say I'm the problem. John exhaled through his nose. It's not about blame. It's about reality. I need to evolve, and I can't do that with you. I've been thinking about this for a long time. I felt a deep ache in my chest. I looked at him and asked, Is there someone else? He looked away, his silence speaking volumes. His ears flushed pink, and his mouth tightened. Finally, he muttered, Yes, Emily. The words hollowed me out. I stared at him, this man I had built my life around, who now spoke as casually as if he were announcing a business transfer. After everything, you throw me away for what? Some woman who makes you feel young again. He bristled. Don't diminish this. She's not a fling. She's someone I connect with in ways we never did. She sees me. She makes me feel alive. I swallowed back the sting of tears. So, 12 years mean nothing? He said, Of course they mean something, but we have no kids. The condo is mine from before the marriage. So legally, it's separate property. There isn't much to fight over. Pennsylvania is a no-fault state. We can make this clean, simple. No courtroom battles. You'll get support to land on your feet. I laughed bitterly. Support? You think tossing me an envelope of cash makes this right? He leaned forward. I'm trying to make it easier. You need a fresh start. You have that old family house in the Poconos. Your inheritance from your grandparents. It's yours free and clear. Go there. Fix it up. Think about what's next. You'll have time to breathe. I thought about the farmhouse. I hadn't stepped foot in it for years. It was a place filled with memories, some good but mostly bad. The siding was weathered gray, the porch railings rotted through, and the smell of hay and dust was overwhelming. It was a place I had left behind for a reason, a place that represented the past, lonely and suffocating. But I had no choice. I packed my things and drove north to the Pocono Hills. The drive was long and silent, the hum of the highway filling the void that John used to occupy. As I got closer to the mountains, my chest felt heavier. When I finally turned down the gravel drive and saw the farmhouse, it stood hunched against the trees, a silhouette of neglect. I stepped out of the car, the gravel crunching beneath my boots. The air was sharp and earthy, filled with the scent of damp leaves and moss. I walked up the creaking porch steps and slipped the old brass key into the lock. It took a moment, but then it clicked, and the door gave way with a long groan, exhaling the smell of dust and stale air. Inside, the house felt frozen in time, yet abandoned. Dust motes danced in the weak beam of my flashlight. The kitchen table was covered in a thin film of grime, the cabinets hung crooked, and a spiderweb stretched across a broken chair. The air was damp, tinged with mold and something sour. I lay in bed that night, the thin blanket pulled up to my chin. Every creak of the old farmhouse made me flinch. I missed the city's background noise, the distant sirens, the hum of cars. Out here, the silence was too complete, broken only by the lonely sound of an owl calling through the trees. I was afraid, not just of the house or of being alone, but of the blank future waiting to be written. But as the days passed, I began to see possibilities. I had always loved flowers, and I thought about taking a class in floral design, opening a shop someday. I also considered working the land, like the people in these hills who had side hustles selling homemade jam or raising chickens. One day, as I was tearing down the boards nailed over the windows, I heard the crunch of footsteps on the gravel drive. I froze, my heart hammering. I thought it might be John, coming to check on his abandoned wife. But it was a tall man, wearing a red and blue plaid shirt with sleeves rolled to his elbows and jeans scuffed with dirt. At his side trotted a sandy, colored dog with a curled tail. He looked at me suspiciously. "What are you doing there? This house has been empty for years. You can't just break in." I yanked off a glove and straightened. "I didn't break in. This is my house. I'm Madison. My grandparents own this place. I moved back in yesterday." He studied me for a long moment, then his expression softened. "Madison, you're Margaret's granddaughter. Well, I'll be damned. I thought this place would never see life again." He introduced himself as Ethan. He lived about a mile down the road and had built his house after his divorce. His dog, Max, wagged its tail and came up to me, sniffing my shoes before sitting at my feet. Ethan said, "Max usually doesn't take to strangers, but looks like you've passed his test." I crouched and scratched behind Max's ears. He leaned into my touch with a satisfied huff. Ethan offered to help me with the house. He showed me how to pry nails without splitting the wood, how to brace my foot for leverage. We worked together, tearing away the remaining boards that had sealed the house like a tomb. With each plank that clattered to the ground, more sunlight streamed inside, warming the rooms that had sat dark for too long. In the evenings, we would sit on the porch steps, a thermos of coffee between us. Ethan told me about his life. His ex-wife had left when their daughter was 10. She said she needed freedom, a chance to live the life she'd missed. He fought to keep their girl, and won. He raised her himself, and she was now 20 and in nursing school downstate. He said, "Being left behind doesn't mean you're finished. Sometimes it just means you've been set free." His words struck a chord with me. I realized that John's leaving wasn't the end of me. It was the beginning of something new. One evening, as we were sitting by the river, the moonlight glistening on the water, Ethan leaned in and kissed me. It was a kiss that was neither rushed nor hesitant, but full and certain. I felt my heart pound, not with fear, but with awakening. I had thought that part of me was dead, buried under years of neglect and betrayal. But here, under the stars, in the arms of a man who had also been broken and rebuilt, I felt alive again. Ethan asked me to move in with him. He said, "I don't want to waste time pretending I don't know what this is. You've been through hell, and I know it's fast, but I also know what I feel when I'm around you. I want you to move in with me. Not someday, now. I don't want to wait." I was hesitant at first. We had only known each other a month. But as I looked at him, at the man who had shown up every morning with tools and patience, who had listened to my pain without judgment, who had opened his world to me without hesitation, I felt the walls inside me bend. I squeezed his hand gently. I wasn't ready to say yes aloud, but I didn't pull away either. A year has passed since then. With Ethan's encouragement, I enrolled in classes at a floral design studio. I discovered I had a natural gift for color balance and breathing life into arrangements. I'm now supplying bouquets to local shops and wedding venues. My name is whispered with admiration. I've changed in so many ways. My wardrobe is no longer filled with resigned jeans and faded sweaters. I wear dresses that highlight my confidence, pieces chosen for my own reflection in the mirror. I move with ease, with Max bounding happily at my side, and Ethan never far from reach. As I stand here at John's party, I look around at the life I've created. I'm not the woman I used to be. I've been reborn, and I know that this is just the beginning. The future is bright, filled with love, purpose, and the promise of a new chapter.